Stearns.
And I'm Glenn Stearns.
And this is Grit Happens. Join us as we engage in candid conversations with some of the most successful people in every field and from every walk of life, all with the common thread of grit and a goal of not just surviving, but thriving.
And we hope that the show will help you feel informed, energized, and especially inspired.
So let's get started. This is Grit Happens. I am so excited about today because we continue our series on your integrity book launch conversations.
What book?
What book? Nothing. No book. Nothing. No product placement. Nothing to buy. No, you would never do that. It's been an exciting conversation we've been having with a lot of the people throughout the arc of your life that have been in many stories and chapters, whether they're in the book or not. The chapters of your life are very diverse and very interesting and dramatic. And one of the chapters that you had in recent years was the filming of the Discovery show Undercover Billionaire. And there was a character involved in this process that was very much intimately involved with you in every, like a lot of steps along the way.
I'd call him a character.
Yeah, he's definitely a character. And you know what? Why don't we just bring him on and we'll introduce him and we can learn a little bit more about the man who has probably seen parts of Glenn that most people haven't. Mr. Tim Warren, showrunner extraordinaire, director, producer, award winner, so many things you are. So many.
Hi, Tim.
Good to see you guys. Hello, friend.
Hello, friend.
I miss you. 90 days, every hour, waking hour with you. And then we go just completely
silent, dark.
Silent.
No, it's not even 90 days. We can take it back. So Tim Warren is the showrunner who was very much the kind of the lead on the entire process of filming Undercover Billionaire.
Tim,
and
you're not even getting a word in. Do you see that? This is my life. You started to say hello.
I'm listening and nodding.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Glenn did when you were working on the show, right? He listened and nodded.
Go ahead,
and then you gave him the words and then he spoke.
Exactly.
So
I figured you'll let me know when you want me to talk. So I'll just
So let's talk. Tell us, first of all, what is a showrunner? Explain to people what a showrunner is, and then
I say that I'm part cheerleader, part psychologist.
You run the whole deal, is what you do.
The idea is that yes, I sort of oversee everything on a television program from sort of the 35,000-foot view. You know, my job is to make sure that everybody that works on the show, there's a part of the show, has the tools they need to succeed. And I'm interfacing with the people in front of the camera, behind the camera, the production company, as well as the network buyer. So I'm serving sort of a lot of different masters, but yeah, you know, I try to really just hire great people, work with great people, you know, and empower them to do what they do, and you know, give them the tools they need to succeed.
Tim is the orchestra leader.
He really is. He is,
and he's out there playing the tambourine. Okay, he's doing it all.
Tim, okay, so take us back. You Discovery. You're working with Discovery for this show, and you meet Glenn Stearns. What was your first impression of Glenn and the idea behind the show?
Well, like, I was hooked. You know, when you sell a show, that, you know, you usually do like a couple minute teaser, and the production company this is just a test. And I had worked with one of the executives at Discovery at the time, Chris Rantamaki, who I had worked with previously at Spike. And, you know, he thought that I would be good to run this show. So the folks at TJAD, who I hadn't worked with before, you know, sent me this teaser. And so long story short, I looked at this teaser. I was hooked. I'm like, oh my gosh, what a great show. It was so clean. It was so concise. It's like, you know, what happens when you take someone that's super successful and strip them of everything, their name, their money, their contacts, and drop them in a place they've never been, and see, not only can they survive, but can they thrive? You know, can they build this business in 90 days? I just thought it was such a great concept. And I was just in. And, you know, the thing about Glenn is he, you know, if you were going to line up 10 billionaires in a row, you know, Glenn would be the last one that you'd pick out of the lineup, because he's so relatable. He's so unassuming. And just, you know, just really engaging, really likable. So I just thought that they just had a lot of potential, this show, and it was awesome.
Wonder if I take that as a compliment or
Yes, it should. I
I'm
think it was
joking.
delivered as a compliment.
And
It
I
was
Very much
delivered
so.
as a compliment
I'm
because
joking.
like you don't, you know, that's a big part, I think, of why, you know, that first season of Undercover Billionaire was so successful because you are very much an everyman, very relatable, and you sort of have this no nonsense approach that connects with people, and it was successful, you know, with the television show, and it's ultimately, I think, one of the big reasons why you've been successful in your professional life as well.
Well, I'll tell you in you know, you'll find probably I'll joke a lot during this because I really got to know Tim and had the and have the utmost respect for all that you do. We got to really go deep with each other because I mean, you spend all day together, and while
15 hours a day.
most of it is quote in reality, right? You know, I'm out there winging it. You know, there's so much going on behind the scenes that people don't understand, and to be able to keep it all together and keep everybody happy. There's a lot of people, camera people, you know, sound people,
A
drone
lot of
people.
players in the equation,
Oh my
really,
gosh. And then he's got to
essentially.
go all the way back to LA to all those people. I mean, there was a lot going on. And to say you're organized and have big picture in mind. I mean, you know, it's much more than that. People
Well,
don't understand your job.
you're
It's
used to
tough.
working with some pretty big personalities. I mean, you've done 24 Hours to Hell and Back with Gordon Ramsay. You've done Bar Rescue with John Tapper, Extreme Makeover Home Edition. You've done some pretty significant shows out there. And of all the people that you've worked with, how does Glenn stack up to the personalities that you've seen that have done the shows that you've
Well, I would say that you know, you mentioned some of those folks like John and Gordon, you know, those guys are certainly bigger, maybe personality and bravado, you know. But you know, I think that the similarity is really the the passion for what he does, and you know, John and Gordon have that same thing. They have this commitment, you know, they strive for perfection and they settle for excellence, you know. And they're always trying to be, you know, better. They never quit, and I think that's, you know, again, what Glenn has intrinsically, that makes him successful. And again, he brought that to Undercover Billionaire because it's like it was a grind. It was 90 days shooting every day, long hours, and he was fully committed to the process. And I think that's what makes for a great TV show, because it's people at home are so savvy, I think, of these quote unquote reality shows, and it's like they want authenticity, and that's what Glenn delivers over and over again. You know, folks at home, they can sniff out the BS, and there's no BS with Glenn. It's like it's very authentic, and he is an open book, and was willing to share the good, the bad, and the ugly, you know, through the process. And there was a lot of good, but there was also a lot of bad and ugly. And but at the end of the day, you know, it was just such a highlight for me in my career because of, you know, I think what Glenn, you know, overcame, what he accomplished in Erie and in building, you know, Underdog Barbecue, which by the way I'm
I
representing
love it.
today.
You're
Got a
killing me.
shiny
See?
mug.
Product placement. Nice
Yeah,
sweatshirt.
you know, so
Okay, let's
yeah,
talk. I want to
mad
expand on
respect.
what you said. You said there was a lot of ugly. Let's go a little
Well,
bit. I want to go into that
okay, let's
ugly
go to the
because
ugly. But
people want to
before
know
we
the
do
ugly. I want to know the
before we do that, um, you know,
ugly.
I did not know what I was getting myself into, all right, at all. You know, I mean, I had said over and over again to a lot of different production houses, you know, I'm okay. You know, I'm a business guy. You know, we did a show 20 years ago or 18 years ago, and that kind of I
He
think
wasn't looking to be a reality star, is what he's saying.
no,
Who just it just kind of fell in his lap, and then this opportunity. This was something that he had always talked about. Like,
right. And so we kept saying it's okay. I said, but look, you want to throw me out in the middle of nowhere with no money and no, you know, contacts. I bet I could build a business again.
because a
And
lot of people challenge you throughout oh, you just got lucky. You just got lucky. And you're like,
exactly.
no, I know I could do it again. It was kind of a
But
challenge,
getting
really.
out there and then doing it Um, again, I didn't understand how hard it would be or why, some of my friends like John Elway and Richard Branson and guys that we had interviewed, but they didn't make
They were on the
the
cutting room
cut.
floor.
And I think you just want to keep it real instead of bringing all these other outside influences. I get it. But they both, I know those two said, I'd never want to restart again. Like, why do you want to go out and risk all that when all you're probably going to end up having is a bunch of people see you fail? And, and I didn't understand that until I was in the middle of it going, oh crap, the world's going to watch me fail and that pressure. But the point I'm trying to make, which has nothing to do with that, is the way you guys were able to document and capture everything and turn it into a show that I'm very proud of. I mean, so many people all over the world have said, I don't watch reality shows. I don't watch these fake I just don't get involved and I don't like it. But I watched your show and I was hooked because it felt so real and I felt the pain you were going through and I learned so much. We're going to a school on Monday,
Yeah, and Mother's Day weekend, we're going to
right?
be up in Portland, and Glenn
And
and our
they
teacher had reached out. Like,
showed their whole class this, and so many colleges, so many high schools are showing that. And I just had someone else today say this needs to be in every single high school
a business class.
as a business class, right? So that makes me feel good. And that was the magic you did. I mean, I lived through the pain, but you were able to document it so well, Tim.
And create a story out of thousands of hours
Right.
of footage. That was
A lot of
no
footage.
easy task. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Well, and we had such an incredible team out there. And I think that, everybody bought into the journey. They bought in to Glenn's journey and what we were trying to accomplish, which I think was really key. And going back to, Glenn is like, he's able to rally people around and people, the whole crew really believed in him. It's like if this guy who has it all is willing to go and sleep in the truck and go through all of this, pain and suffering, to do this, it's like, it motivates people, I think, to go the extra mile and to capture those stories as best they can.
You know what's funny is I never read the the blogs or the people that were the people that said good
The
things or
critics.
bad things, the critics,
Right.
whatever you want to call them. And now with social media, again, when we did our show 18 years ago, there wasn't
social media at all.
social media really. And so, but I was able to go in back then and after every show, I just see, wonder what people are saying. And there
Right.
were things in chat groups. And I remember back then it was
Oh
funny.
Lord, there's one he just loves. He was
Yeah,
like in a gay
because
chat room.
there was all these,
Right where
a
he
lot of
belongs.
times,
How you found that? That's
well, a
funny.
lot of times people would say very nice things. Oh, we love Glenn and Mindy. They're so nice and all this. And, it makes your ego, it makes you feel good. Right. But I got somehow there was a chat room of people talking and it happened to be a gay chat room. Now, do I care? No. Am I, uh,
Anyway,
whatever?
go ahead.
And they go, yeah, that Glenn, he's kind of cute, but he sure is a little chubby. I went, oh, that hurt, man.
We weren't chubby back then.
And yeah, so and I laugh because obviously, you get the raw and the real and it's perfect, right? It's just, everybody's got an opinion and you get to hear about it. So this time around, I was like, I don't care to read it or I don't
You
care.
really.
And I never did. But some like my kids and Mindy, I can't believe they'd say this or whatever, right? And
You
some
can't please everybody. That's what
and
we
you can't
learned.
please everybody, but there was, so many people that really said wonderful things. Mostly 99% of things were wonderful. And I was very proud because my daughter, especially, she'd read over and over and over again all the people. And the word that kept coming up was inspiration or inspiring or whatever. And again, I didn't expect that because I really was doing this because I really wanted to show my kids hard work, grit. This is what you need. And I had gone through some cancer before that, as you know. And they didn't get to see that. My young kids growing up didn't get to see me fight
Grind.
and grind. So I thought, okay, this would be a good place to show them that. And then to get that, the benefit of all these people that became inspired. I wasn't expecting that. And that's such the wonderful thing that came out of it for me that I absolutely appreciate it.
Tim, let's talk a
Yeah.
little bit about when you jumped in, you were, when you jumped in, we were ready to go. And then Glenn got his second cancer diagnosis, and you were right by him through that whole process. And what did you learn about Glenn going through that curveball,
Well,
kind of the first curveball of the whole production, really?
right. Yeah. I mean, we had started and it was sort of February and March, and we were getting ready to, go out. I think it was May, June of that
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
And as you said, during that sort of pre-production process, maybe it was April, you guys would know the timeline, that, Glenn went to get
That was in
his
May.
checkup.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it came back that, that his cancer had, I guess, resurfaced in his throat, and, ultimately, went down to Houston to have a surgery. And, you guys, thought it was really important to document that. So it was just me, in a camera. I had actually had a medical background in a previous life.
Yes, you had.
Right behind you, High School
Right, yeah.
911.
Uh,
Exactly.
yeah, I mean, I worked on an ambulance service when I was a teenager back in
16, right?
Connecticut.
Driving ambulances
Yeah, it
and
was a
delivering
whole
medical.
different thing. Yeah, Darien EMS Post 53 in Darien, Connecticut, which is been around for actually 53 years, and it's the only emergency medical service in the town of 20,000 people, and they
Which
respond
didn't it
1,600.
just get optioned for scripted series by CBS? Is that happening?
That's hopefully happening. Yeah, we got this writer strike now, so it's a little bit stalled, but hopefully bigger, better things will come of the documentary. But this ambulance service is run by high school students, and it was really
So
shaped
amazing.
my life. And even though I didn't go into the medical field, it really taught me um, about everything from working with a team to managing time to handling stress and making decisions under stress. But anyway, I had been obviously in the medical field. I had been in hospitals. I had been in ORs and things like that. So, I went with you guys down to Houston, and was documenting your experience as you went through the surgery. And the idea was to go in and remove a little bit of that cancer. And I think going in, it was not supposed to be that big of a deal. There was some cancer on your epiglottis, I believe. And they went in, and I was filming this whole thing, and they would take a piece of cancerous tissue out, and they would come out of the OR and and take it to the lab, and they would put it under a microscope, and they'd say, oh, no, there's cancer still on the edges. They basically needed a clean edge, around the
Gosh.
tissue that they were taking. And, so this surgery that was supposed to be less than an hour turned out to be several hours. And it was, going back and forth with Dr. Gross, I believe was his name, the
Yep.
surgeon. And, we would be in the OR, obviously. Glenn is under, and he's on the table, and they've, got all of the various, doctors and nurses around. And, Dr. Gross would take a piece out and go back to the lab, and they would analyze this. And long story short, he went back 6 times. And,
Wow.
and every time, he would go back and have it looked at, you could see he's just getting more and more deflated. And, the long story short is that they ended up removing your entire epiglottis, which
Ugh.
completely changed,
My
your
life.
life. Um,
Yeah, it did.
um, and so that was really, obviously, one, I felt just really honored and privileged to be there, because it was such a personal thing.
Yeah.
But obviously, going into that surgery, there was a certain set of expectations, which is like, Glenn's going to go in, doctor's going to go in, they take this little piece of cancer out, and we'll be good to go. And no problem. But again, it just kept getting worse, actually, to the point where again they had to take your entire epiglottis off, and it was just really hard. And then obviously very hard to see you and talk to you after you came out from anesthesia, and let you know that that's what happened, and and the ramifications of that. But of course, typical Glenn, I guess mindset is like, well, he was just like, well, all right, I'll be laid up for a couple weeks and then we'll go and shoot the show.
Let's go shoot.
And that just really, that wasn't realistic, because the reality is that you needed to retrain yourself to eat, and you had a feeding tube. And obviously you guys can talk about that process, but there was a lot of bouts with pneumonia and things like that, because food would get down in your lungs. And in the long story short, instead of being able to shoot in June, July, we had to push that off, much to Glenn's chagrin, because he wanted to go, even though he was really not very well and very strong at that point.
I mean, how many times did you and I have side conversations where I'm like, Tim, I know he says he's ready,
I was on morphine,
but
what did I know?
yeah. And Tim finally said, look, we want Glenn, but we want Glenn to be Glenn for like 6 to 8 weeks, not Glenn coming out of surgery, Glenn coming out of the hospital. We want him to be whole, healthy, strong Glenn, and then we'll shoot. And that did it. We didn't end up going until March the following year. And he was headstrong, he was like, I'm going. We had
it was first we had to push from July, and then there was talk about doing it in the fall. And just
and
wasn't.
We couldn't do winter in Erie. There was no way.
Well, and we ended up doing winter in their area, at
Pretty
least
much.
It
at
was
the very
a
beginning.
frozen lake. Yeah.
We started in winter and then went into spring. But
anyway, it was it wasn't exactly the way anybody saw it going. And yet, I think when I look back on that, again, I like it even more because it felt like I needed the odds stacked against me. Like I like that. I don't know why, but I just find it an interesting the more you have things against you, the more you fight, or you don't fight. But in the case of this, I think there were a lot of people out there that thought, oh, you get to go and do this play, this poor person, and then you get to go back to your rich life. And and that's the ones I would hear. That's the ones that they would tell me about, people saying. And what people didn't understand or whatever is, I had some health issues going on. I was eating out of the feeding tube, still am. And I didn't have to do this, but I could take this wonderful reputation I had my whole life that I'm very proud of and turn it completely upside down, not just to, people that I know in my community, but to the whole world. And then my family, inside my own head, I'm thinking, now that I'm involved in it, I'm going, man, I'm not 100%, and I'm not going to make it. And now the rest of the world's going to see me as a loser. And then that's going to really affect my family, at least what I think my family thinks of me. So
that's
I don't know.
A lot.
Yeah. So all that was in my mind going, quit, don't do it. They were right. These guys were right. I shouldn't have done it. And that is the microcosm of what real life is, just boiled down into 90 days, which is life is hard. Sometimes we don't have the deck stacked in our side, and sometimes it's against us. And sometimes you want to give up and you want to run, and you think maybe if you close your eyes long enough, the problem will go away, And in my case, if I just walk out of here, you can't make the show because there's no ending. And I thought about that many, many times, especially when we did that barbecue fest. I'm like, this is not going my way. And also when that guy kind of hijacked us with the building,
Right.
Right at the very end, we're getting ready to open up, and the guy realizes we're under a deadline and holds out for more money. You
There were a
know,
lot of
a lot of
obstacles
obstacles.
and curveballs. I mean, you obviously the one that played into his health was immediately going into the hospital, which, you know, obviously the camera couldn't spend 5 days filming him, but he was in the hospital a lot longer than was represented because, you know, and Glenn realized if I eat, I'm going to shut down production. I can't do that. He runs I mean, here he opened a barbecue restaurant and he can't even eat the food. People are like, what? Whoa, what were you
But
doing?
and the reason, I mean, there's a lot of funny and stressful and crazy things that happen. But the reason what I like about it, because the people I think that watch um, the podcast or listen to it, whichever, is that a lot of it can be, again, something that I hope is relatable to them, which to me was taking a big chance. And while other people think, again, it's not a big chance. In 90 days, you get to go back. No, I, I'm going to look like a loser to the world. And whether or not, you know, unless you're in that situation, you don't understand that stress, right? Of going, give up, give up.
Did you ever think at any point he was going to walk, Tim?
Well, I don't know. I don't think I thought he was going to walk, but I didn't know whether honestly his body was going to fail him. I mean,
Yeah.
again, you were in the ER. We were in the ER together within a couple of days. I mean, it was cold, it was snowy, you know, you're sleeping in the truck
That's
and
awful.
you know, you're trying to have your cup of noodles or and that's ultimately what got you into the ER because some of that, you know, went down in your throat. And, you know, that was the whole thing that we were sort of talking about, like, well, do we embrace this story of the fact that, you know, Glenn is on, you know, eating out of this feeding tube. And ultimately it was just like, well, we felt that there might have been like some backlash of like, why are you putting this person that's, you know, compromised in this
Right.
really bad situation? And I think also Glenn didn't want to use it as an excuse.
Mm-mm.
Right.
Um,
That
but
was
the
me.
reality behind the scenes was like, you know, and I'm feeling it as a showrunner, right? Like I'm the one that's like been saying, no, we're not going to shoot, you know, 2 weeks after your surgery. No, we're not going to shoot 3 months after your surgery. But now it's 6+ months. And it's snowing sideways and this guy's sitting in the truck and I'm like, am I going to kill this guy? You know,
Oh,
so you know, so it often weighed. So but again, it's like Glenn does not quit. Like
no,
he's
you
either
saw
gonna
that.
succeed or die trying. And I was, you know, at times concerned about the latter. Um, but you know, and true, you know, Glenn, you know, he is the cat with 9 lives. It's like he just, you know, he ends up recovering and he pushes forward and he's stronger, you know, because of it. And you know, I know it's in the book. It's just like that's the it really does. It's so simple, but it separates people that are successful and not. It's like so many people when it gets so tough and it's just like it just is unbearable, they quit.
Yeah.
Glenn Stearns doesn't, you know, and
Right.
that started from early, obviously, in his life, you know, in the cards that you were dealt between, you know, family with addiction problems and having a kid at 14. It's just like, you know, you could have just said, oh well, you know, I got a bad deck of cards and I'm just gonna like give up, but you never did, and that's been a through line, you know, for your entire life. And again, for you to like, you know, have another bout of cancer, feeling like crap, having your epiglottis taken out, you're on a feeding tube, you know, yet you still go and put yourself in a really difficult, adverse situation. 99.99999% of people would never do that,
Well,
right?
but
Uh,
Yeah.
I tell you, I think, you know, it was you know, that maybe that's the difference. Probably a lot of it is between a lot of people that say, like, how can you achieve all this, you know, and why don't other people? I absolutely know for a fact it's not because, you know, I'm smarter than anybody, right? It's just maybe you just stick it out a little longer, right? And that's, and
percent.
all, it's like, okay, what's the secret, right? Well, not very many secrets out there. It's just, you know,
Who can stick it out the
keep going, no
longest
matter
and
what,
endure the most
no matter how
pain?
much your brain wants to tell you to turn off.
You
And
had there was a Glennism in the film that was like, when things go bad, don't go with them. Were there any moments where Glenn kind of almost went with them when things were going bad? Because did you see him like,
Well, the funny thing was like and we've got to get this clip, but like the blue truck. Like, Glenn
Love it.
hated that blue truck, and
Hated it.
he got so pissed at us because he's just like, you stuck me with this crappy truck. Everybody's making fun of me. It goes, you know, he was so
I mean,
embarrassed.
Grant had a beautiful Jeep that he drove. Glenn had this piece of
You know what? It was finally, I got to a point, I'm like, you know what? You've made it already so hard on me. Everything about this. And people ask, like, how real is reality TV? Right. And I'm sitting there thinking in my head about so many shows that they just tee it up and it's all, you can tell when it's fake. Right. And I'm sitting there going, why is no one helping me? Matter of fact, not only they're not helping me, they're hurting me on purpose in that damn blue truck, right? It's like, fix the freaking fan belt, right? It's like, why does it have to
Brooke and
screech?
Melinda and
Oh,
Courtney
I
were
lost it
supposed to
one
have to
time on
put up
them.
with poor
I was just like, you
Glenn.
guys are just effing with me, just on
Right.
purpose.
We
Like,
had to put Glenn in a timeout.
yeah, I was so pissed about that damn truck. I'm like, they know I'm coming like 2 blocks away. And it's a small town. Like, let me at least kind of slide in. But no, it
Okay,
just doesn't happen.
one more thing. This is kind of funny because were you nervous at all when Chris Trott was onto him, when Glenn accidentally sent that email and revealed who he was? I mean, his whole book's about integrity, being who you are, be authentic. And there's a conflict right there, being someone you're not using your name, trying to hoodwink all these people. That's hard, not, who you are. And, integrity is everything to him. So here he is going undercover, but now someone's onto him. What were your thoughts in that moment when that
Well,
happened?
I happened to be in the truck
Oh,
that
shit. You were there.
I was in the truck. I'm like, that's one of my, few Hitchcockian moments from Undercover Billionaire. You actually see me in there. I actually had my beard at the time. And, Glenn basically goes, I just sent him an email from my, Glenn Stearns email. And like, we're on day 86, like 86,
Oh my.
87.
Almost
It's
made
like,
it.
like this whole ruse has gone on this long. And I go, are you effing kidding me? Really, Stearns? We're like
So
point
him,
two of the
no.
marathon, and you're gonna like go and fumble the ball right now. So
We
yeah,
knew each other well then, because it's not, you can think about this. We've come all this way, and now this guy can go, you know what? This guy's full of shit. He's making it up. This is a whole lie. This is his real life. And
Chris
he
could have blown the
could have
whole
blown
thing
it
up,
off.
but
could have
he
blown
didn't.
And I'm like,
the
He's a
whole
all that
thing.
good
work
man.
from
Chris Trott
everybody.
is a good man.
Yeah, no,
Yeah. So
he
I
wasn't.
I was really nervous, and it's like, but I think Glenn and I had the same thought about it. It's like, well, we can't run from it. It's
No,
like Glenn had to go
What
and talk
happened again?
to
He
Chris.
locked himself in his
in the shed. You had to go
shed.
into the shed, no
I
cameras. He
can't.
wanted to talk to you about
I
it.
even don't remember exactly. I think we could. He wouldn't let. Oh, he
He
wouldn't
was
let the
CEO.
cameras
No, he
in.
didn't want to talk to the
Yeah,
camera.
that's what it
He talked
was.
to you,
Right.
but he was like, "Look, who is this guy? Who's this Glenn Stearns I see hanging out with all these celebrities? Like you see him, he's like, who is this person?" He had a lot of power in that moment to change the
Shoot.
course of the whole
Well,
show.
he did, and ultimately, it was convincing him ultimately that that he needed to talk to Glenn, and it needed to be, on camera, and obviously Glenn or Chris had already invested so much time, in building Underdog
Personally, yeah.
Barbecue and all this, and it was really like, you got to trust us at the end of the day that this is a good thing. But I said, you hear it from Glenn, and that that scene is real, and when the scene
Oh,
when we're shooting it, like I don't know how it's gonna go. Is Chris gonna basically hear Glenn and say, okay, I'm with you, I'll keep your secret because I know this is a good positive thing, or is he
Right.
gonna, as Glenn would say, go pound sand, right? And we're all
right.
sitting there shooting this, and we don't know which way it was gonna go, so it's like
Oh,
I was like literally living in this reality moment of like, well, in about 5 minutes, I'm gonna know whether
oh, my
We've
heart.
good
done all
or
this
the
and
whole
not
thing is
done.
gonna blow up.
So
Yeah. I'll
bad.
tell you two other times, right? One was I've got a building. We're gonna move in on like next Tuesday. Everything was good. And and so we said, can we shoot the tasting of the
Or
meats. We were interviewing the different.
You were at Federal Hill. No, that was a different
No,
one.
we were interviewing the
Oh yeah, the
head
smokers.
head smoker, and so
Mike and Christine
can we
and
do it
Ashley.
already in your place? He said, sure. So he was in and he was in behind the scenes watching us interview everyone, and we were filming that. And that's when I think he got the idea, this guy, that, you know what, maybe I'm going to hold out for more money. And all of a sudden, it's like we're supposed to close. He goes, you know what? I think I need more money. And just threw us a curveball. And all of a sudden, I went, you know, this is not going to work and I'm going to fail. And that was one of those times when I went, oh, and
People do that in life too,
and
though.
so
They
many
ch-
people have also talk about, they go, yeah, so you found a pink building and then you were, and it also already had barbecue in it before. Yeah, right, right.
Oh, that was all.
100%.
Well, Jekyll and Hyde, that didn't work out, and then you had to repivot there.
That's the one I'm talking about. So
Yeah.
Jekyll and Hyde was the first place. And now we go to this place a little outside. And that was the place that was the old barbecue place. And I mean, it was a perfect way to have it show a transformation and everything. And it was ultimately perfect. But you, not in the moment, you don't know it's perfect. You think,
You couldn't script that. You would never. I mean,
that's
that's
my
a
point.
perfect like antagonist in a story, and you couldn't have scripted it. A lot of those things just
like there was already
life is so
enough
interesting.
story,
Right.
I thought, right? And now we got to do this, which obviously made it better, but you know, you're not thinking that way. But I will tell you one time when I finally started to understand this business and what Tim was about. Okay. I'm going to give a little tiny behind the scenes, but not much.
Are you gonna say? Are you gonna tell?
No, I'm gonna give a little behind the scenes. So
Tim and I talked about this.
so there was the last couple days where we needed to fit a lot of stuff in, and I would not know sometimes something that maybe the producers knew because maybe they had talked to a person already and they knew that their mother had died and but she was a barbecue expert. I'm making something up, right? But they knew that. So what they would do from a time to time is whenever we kind of cut for a minute and they had to redo something or my microphone wasn't working right, they'd say, you should ask Mary about her grandmother or whatever. That's it. Now, I didn't know what that meant either, but it could lead to something good, right? So I'd come back and I'd say, so how's your grandmother? Oh, she died of barbecue, right? Or whatever, you know, and it would go away. That was good.
Well, that's what your producing team is there to support
Exactly.
you, to help
So
keep
not a
move
big
the
deal.
story along. They're not.
But now we're down to the last couple days and they don't have enough time to kind of cut. But they gave me this little earwig to say, like, ask her about a barbecue. Okay. So I get this in my ear, but I'm driving in the last day and it's just Tim and me. And I said, Tim, you know what? I said, for 89 days, I said, I have been doing reality TV. You thrown me to the wolves. Everything has been hard and painful. And that's reality. I said, but you, my friend, you have been making a television show. It's a lot different than me living reality and you wanting a great show. So with that, I want to know something. What's that, Clem? There's an evaluator coming in right now. And I said, I want to know, what do you know? What has he told you? What's this valuation going to be? I said, trust me, I'll help run it like it should be. It's all about the reality. I get it, but I need to know. Am I going to fail miserably? Am I going to succeed? What is it? Because I don't want to be so shocked on camera and embarrassed. I just need to know, Tim. Tell me. We're friends. Let me know. And he goes, Glenn, did you know that all the big wigs from Discovery have flown in? I said, yeah. He goes, do you know why? Why? He goes, because none of us know. We all are waiting for the same answer. We don't know what the value is. I go, what? You don't know? You got to go figure it out. I go, what are you talking? He goes, that's reality.
I want to hear his side before you finish that story. Where were you when he was asking you this question in your mind?
Well, we were in the truck together, or we were driving in, and the reality, I think what I was thinking is like, everything's been real to this point. It's just like, it's we're gonna go the whole they're gonna go the whole way. But that's like that was the beauty of the show.
Exactly.
It wasn't like we were producing an evaluation. It was like, we had somebody that was, evaluated, put valuations on businesses, I think from Gannon University. And again, they were gonna look at the books and look at the plans for the future and look at the assets, look at the liabilities, and ultimately come up with a decision. So that was the beauty of it. It was just like how I didn't know whether Chris Trott was going to basically blow up the whole show. I didn't know, what the valuation was. I was actually a little surprised that he even asked me the question.
Well,
I
because
bet. I'll bet.
here we are then the last day, and I thought, all right, I know I'm in reality, and I know you're doing a television show, but I don't know how much you know. You know what I mean? Like I've never asked you that, right? I don't know. I'm just living every day. But now it's down to the wire. What's happening? What do you really know, Tim? Because I never asked him that. We never, sat there and, I just have to live every day. And so when he tells me, I have no idea either. This is what it's all boiled down to, Glenn. I'm like, I know, but now I'm really nervous. Like, I mean, heck. So the funny part to me, and that's what I was trying to get at is, so I've got that little earwig in because it was just to move it along quicker, right? Like they had a lot to cram in. And so when I walk in into the restaurant and there's the valuator. And I'm like, now I'm really nervous. I got to sell this guy, man. He's got to, I need to make sure my value
Glenn
is
is a
right.
really good
So,
salesperson, wouldn't you say? He's really
but now, like the
Except
world
for
is like
dog toys. He
looking.
couldn't sell dog toys.
Yeah,
damn dog toy.
hence, you're right about that. But I start selling this valuator. Hey, we have 5 income streams. Obviously we've got butts and seats. And we can turn it twice, and we've got the ale trail and merchandise. We got this and that. But then in my ear, I hear, all right, Glenn, enough selling, move on. I'm like, nope, I'm not done, man. My ass is on the line. I'm keep selling, man. Okay, so let me tell you more again, what we're going to do. Glenn, enough selling. I hear it in my voice. No, I don't care, man. It was hilarious, but I was just, I'm on the hot seat. So that's
Well,
funny.
and again, it's, evaluation is somewhat subjective, and I think, whether someone that puts valuations on companies or not, it's just like, the person that, they want to know that you have a vision, that you have a passion, that you have a plan, and
Yeah.
that could be, the difference between a couple extra bucks. So I
Well,
got
it's
it.
also,
I was on the clock though. I needed to.
yeah, exactly. I mean, no, you were in full look. We got this much time. We got to keep it moving, right? And I was like, I just my reputation. That was my great tension between Tim right then. It was funny, but the other thing a lot of people would ask is or tell me is like, well, the cameras must have helped you a lot because people just say yes. I'm like, actually, a lot of people were saying no. If they saw a camera when we went in to sell the cars, I was trying to go into a lot of car dealers and say, I know you get trade-ins, and I'd love to be able to take your junk or trade in that you're going to end up auctioning off. And these guys all thought we were a sting operation, right? Like we were coming in and they were like, we don't want you guys around. And I'd have to sit with Tim and go, Tim, can you just keep the cameras way far away? Because they don't want to deal with they don't believe me. They think I'm in here as some 60 minutes or something, trying to get these guys or realtors or whoever. It's interesting. It hurt a lot more than it helped sometimes.
Yeah,
So
and I think that's why we started to shoot it a lot more long lens. Like when you were selling the cars, we are like way, way back because we didn't want to impede on the deal, and I
Yeah.
do, that the cameras actually hurt much more than they help. That was yet one more, layer because people are just so skeptical today about cameras and social media and
Yeah.
stuff.
It's
So
so true.
okay, so you've got this show, you've come in under the guise of you're someone else. And obviously, in some way you're pulling the wool over the eyes of a lot of people, but you have something in the end that really is an altruistic outcome. You really are trying to make good TV, inspire others, and show this thing. And I know there was conflict. I know it was hard for Glenn to not use his real name and not tell people who he was. And that's hard. So on that note, like segueing into the word integrity, like it almost flies in the face of integrity, but at the same time, there's a real strong message here. What in your mind, how does integrity work itself into this equation, in your opinion? What does it mean to you?
Well, I think that just in terms of the show, and Glenn and I talked about this a lot because there was this push pull. I'm not being my authentic self. I'm lying to people, and we as production people, we were lying. Again, we were saying that we were doing, this documentary on this gentleman that was, starting over in life and wanted to run his own business and all that. But what I said to Glenn and I constantly said to myself is like, we're doing a good thing. It's like, yes, we're not being, truthful right in this moment, but at the end of the day, we're doing something that, in success is going to motivate people, inspire people. It was also, we picked Erie because it was a city that, could use a boost, right? They had had, bad press, and it's like, here was something to show like how great of a city that Erie was, and to build a business that would generate not only positive thoughts about the city, but actually, provide jobs and all that. So I think that when we were in this sort of constant uncomfortableness of not being, our true selves, again, it's like we were all, even the crew was under pseudonyms, because we didn't want people to like Google us, and
Right.
have us found out. But again, Glenn and I talked about it quite a bit, is that at the end of the day, we are doing something that's good. And so sort of keeping the truth in the shadows until we're ready to reveal it, was good. But
Kind of
at
like
the end of the day,
Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny,
I struggled with it. I agree with Tim. I did. And yet I also looked at the end as, something that I hoped would happen. To your point, hey, that city was known as the pizza bomber city, right? And
right.
what came with that was all the drugs and, the meth and all that stuff they talked about. Now I'm real proud what we did. I think it's put them on the map for being a very entrepreneurial, city that's pulling itself up by its bootstraps. And I think we showcased some really hardworking people in there. And you could say negative things about any city. We highlighted the beauty and strength of the city, and so I think we did the right thing, and so I was okay with it.
so.
Right. So, but yeah, to your point, I think you're talking about, integrity, and it's you're right. It's like, was it, is it integrity? I think you associate integrity, with honesty. Offer people often do, but I think, integrity, I think, is, in terms of the book, in terms of the show, it's like, to me, I think about follow through. It's like Glenn committed to not only go through this process, but to build a successful business in 90 days, and not use his name, and not use his contacts, and not, use his money. And he followed through with that to, again, be an inspiration to people, and to motivate people, and to and in a sense show the process of how you build the money. It's like you can actually build something from nothing. You don't need money to make money. And so he went through that process. So I think that speaks to, integrity. You have an idea, you have a goal, and you follow through with it, to the best
And
of your.
I didn't leave them high and dry. Okay, we came
Right.
back. We created an entrepreneurial fund. We,
Right.
have been back many
You've been back
times
quite a few times
for the small business.
and stayed in contact with a lot of them. And Gannon University honored him
David,
with a doctorate
uh,
and for the community and what he
we
did.
have, done a lot of additional work with them, off camera, having obviously nothing to do with that anymore. I'm very proud of a lot of the relationships I have there. So I agree with you to your point.
So I know we got to wrap up here because there's
Wait, it's
what a
over?
wonderful conference. I know it was so wonderful and so fat. What's next for you, Tim? What can we be looking at down the line? What are we going
Oh
to
my
see
gosh. Well,
from the Tim Warren machine?
so just working on Hot Wheels Ultimate Challenge for
Oh,
NBC. That's going to premiere on May 30th. So
cool.
everybody, has history with Hot Wheels. I certainly grew up
Oh
playing with
my
Hot
God, I
Wheels.
have them too, all over the house. My brother had them.
So yeah, so it's two Hot Wheels super fans get to take a car from their past and turn it into a life-size Hot Wheels. And it
Wow.
it's a lot of fun. Show that we created called Drink Masters is currently streaming on Netflix, so check that out. We're hopeful to do another season of that.
And where
And
can we follow you? Where are you of social media we can
oh my
follow
gosh,
what you're doing?
boomerangproductionsmedia.com, that's our website. Instagram is Tor53. So yeah, you can find me. You can also Google me.
We can find you. We can Google Tim Warren. Tim Warren, thank you for joining us today.
Absolutely.
We miss you. Your baby's growing fast, and hopefully we get a chance to see you and Kelly again soon. Thank you for joining us today on
Appreciate
this
Thank
episode.
you, Tim. And
Get you a book. Book's coming. Book's coming.
you have been a big part of my life. I honestly, absolutely, have you in my heart as far as a very close friend. And I have appreciated everything we've done together, and, and a lot off, again, the camera, not having anything to do with this. So,
Can't wait to see what your
thank
next
you.
show together is. I'm sure there's something down the line.
Yeah.
Well, the feeling is absolutely mutual. Glenn is somebody that has really touched my life in a very meaningful way, and so much I learned from him and continue to learn from him. And you're inspiring, Glenn. I think you all inspire people to be better and to go after their dreams. And I know the book's going to be a huge success.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you. All right. Well, that's it for another wonderful episode in our series covering the book Integrity. You can see the book integrityonline.com.
Amazon.
It's available for pre-sale. And join us for more conversations here on another episode of Say It With Me. It happens.
Thank you,
Thanks, Tim.